Hey everybody, KC here. So almost from the beginning of its existence, I was impressed by Netflix. Not just because I enjoyed at the very beginning getting those CDs in the mail and seeing how fast they could turn that over. And it was so much more convenient than Blockbuster. Now I was impressed by the fact that from the beginning, Reed Hastings saw Netflix as being a disruptive force, but also saw it in different terms than many people in his shoes might see it. He said almost from the very beginning that Netflix's competition was not Blockbuster, that Netflix's competition was the likes of HBO, that basically they were competing for people's time, people's eyeballs, and they had to think of it in those terms, which is one of the reasons that they did things like invest in proprietary content. They understood that they were not going to have a long-term future, or would at least be more easily disrupted if all it was doing was renting out titles that people could get in other places. So it had to do something special. And from the very beginning, I thought that was a great business model, or at least a great kind of theme that retailers should adopt. If all you're doing is selling stuff that other people are selling, it's not, the competition is only on price and convenience. You're not actually bringing anything to the party that differentiates you. Great lesson. And Netflix did it so well that basically the phrase Netflix and chill grew up, right? We all know what that means. But there was a story that came out this week that I thought was kind of interesting. Netflix's market share is actually down almost a third during the last research period. It went from 29% of streaming to about 20% of streaming. And that's because two new streaming services, Peacock and Max, basically they nibbled away at what Netflix's market share was. Now, Amazon Prime Video has about a 16% market share, so it's in a strong number two. The interesting thing about that is there are about 54 million active users on Amazon Prime Video out of about 150 million people who are Amazon Prime members. So roughly a third of the people who are Amazon Prime members are actually going on to watch movies on Prime Video. Next up, you have Hulu, has about 13%. There's HBO Max, has 12%. Disney Plus has 11%. Apple TV Plus has about 5%. And then you got ESPN Stars, Paramount Plus, Stars, all those guys have about 3% each. And then you got YouTube, Sling, BritBox, they all have about 1% each. But the big news is that Netflix lost about a third of its streaming market share in the last research period. Now that explains to some degree why Netflix is projected to spend, in the neighborhood of $19 billion on content this year. Now, not all of that's going to be on proprietary stuff, but there's a lot of spending that goes on in that money on proprietary content that you're not going to be able to get anyplace else. Now, listen, it's not like Netflix is in trouble or anything like that. They have annual sales of about $25 billion, and they added 37 million subscribers just in content over the past year. So they're going to do fine. But still, the thing it proves to us is complacency, even if you're Netflix, simply is not an option. Netflix, and I think they completely understand this, Netflix understands that it has to disrupt yet again, lest it be disrupted by somebody else. And we can see the beginnings of that happening now. So the interesting question is, what will Netflix do next? Everything was really good for Netflix during the pandemic because we were all at home watching TV. It will be interesting to see how in the post-pandemic days, Netflix redefines what it does and what it offers so that it is a different, in some ways, is a different company after the pandemic than it was going in. And listen, that's the thing we've been talking about here on Morning Newsbeat from the very beginning of the pandemic, is that retailers had to take advantage of the opportunity that the pandemic offers to be different coming out than they were going in. You got to disrupt the other guy if you're not going to be disrupted. As Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, if it be not to come, it will be now. And if it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.